How are you?
I was just telling them that I find that training is like a form of self-care for me. Like when I was looking at the graphic that I put up about self-care a while back, um, it's said that info was the least desired form of self-care. But
Hmm.
for me and for me and many families I work with, it's a very effective form of self-care. So yes, okay, maybe I mostly want to go get a pedicure, but like at the end of the pedicure, am I gonna then see my kid and what's happening in my home in perspective and be able to approach it differently? And that would be the difference. The benefit too of LaShonda's class that we just did is that she helps us see self-care as something more in depth than just a pedicure. But it's also training, right? You're learning what's
Yes.
more in depth about self-care instead of just taking what everybody tells you. So all of those are beneficial. Did you have, I know we've talked before about your experiences doing training with, like getting training for yourself as a parent. Did you enjoy training before you were a parent? Like, was that something you've always been into, or that's,
I love learning, always have loved learning. But I can say that when I became a parent, it shifted my type of learning that I wanted because I wanted to be the best parent I could. And then so I just dove into all these different things, as a brand new mom back in the day. And I tried all these different techniques and all these different things. And then I all of a sudden was, well, now what, And so
yeah,
I was thrown a curveball with discovering that my children had some special challenges and some disabilities that I was like, well, what is this? This is something I'm not familiar with. And so I started diving into training because I found myself at a loss on what to do. Because, I had medically fragile children. And so, but with that, it was kind of like, well, here's the problem. So here's the fix.
yeah,
It was definitely, you know what,
yes,
you've
it's like
got
an
a breathing
equation.
issue. Right. You've got a breathing issue. Here's an inhaler. Like you've
Yeah,
got this, here's this to fix the problem. But when we have a child with brain-based disabilities,
yeah,
there was, what do I do? Right.
yeah.
So I desperately sought training because it was an area I was completely just unaware of, didn't know what to do. And so I was exasperated and I was like desperate. What do I do now?
Were you at your wits' end, perhaps?
Quite so. As a matter of fact, I mean, and being very vulnerable, my family was literally falling apart.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really, really was because as as parents, we're the glue, right? We're the glue that
yeah,
holds the family together. And when the parents start to fall apart, the whole family falls apart,
yes,
right? And we were at our wits' end. We weren't in agreement on the same page. Our children were looking at us like, oh, we can't do this anymore. And it was just like this thread that was falling apart, and I was desperate to like put my mind together and figure it out. When you start walking up the stairs to handle a situation and your self-talk is, I hate my life,
yeah,
it's time to do something about that. So
yeah.
that's what I did.
Yes, yeah, no, yes, I've totally been there. And that's such a good point too, because I know that if I can't pull back and see that my kids aren't the problem, right? Like I've got to approach things differently. That's when I know that I need to get back into some sort of training to get me back on track. And
Right.
we have totally been there where our family was falling apart. I'm like, I don't like, can we do this? And as foster families, that's a consideration you can make, right? After you've adopted, if you're a biological family, you don't get that consideration, and so maybe you just do fall apart. And the rate of divorce with individuals with families who have somebody with a disability in the family is very high. Um,
Yes.
and so, hoping that we can provide more services to families to help them with that. What was the you took a training that kind of like revolutionized your perspective? So, what was that like for
Yes.
you?
Eye-opening, actually.
Yeah,
And you mentioned foster parenting, that we get that choice. And being in that situation, we were in that same situation. It's like, I, I wouldn't want to get like, didn't want to, I didn't want to be faced with that challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
so with having to make that choice for that child, because I felt like, what can I do to help this child, right?
Yeah.
So when we went to this training, it was eye-opening because I actually originally went because I knew I had one child in my home that had that disability,
Mm-hmm.
and walked out of there discovering I have 4 children with
Yeah.
that same
Yeah.
disability that I never even considered until I took this course. And it was like life changing, and it had to change my perspective on everything that I did. Like from my traditional parenting skills that, grow up as it is what it is. This boom,
Yes.
boom, boom, this structure, this is how it,
Science. Yeah.
exactly, and I walked out of there with a whole new overwhelmed perspective of we need to do something different, and applied it. Because I was, at first you're thinking, oh, is this really going to work? When we applied it at home and we saw the difference, I was like, oh, there's something really, really real to this,
Hmm.
Yeah, game changer.
So what you're saying is that when you change as the parent, then the whole thing changed.
Yes,
So
that is
that
correct.
change, in fact, starts here
With
with
us.
us.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Change starts with us first. And when we realized that and put that into place, things started, what, of course, it's not that magic recipe where you pull it in, you blend it all
Yeah.
up, and poof, everything's amazing,
Right.
right?
Don't
You
believe
work at
that.
one thing. Yeah, don't believe that. One thing at a time. But once we started taking that insight and looking at ourselves as a parent and understanding ourselves and how that came forward, and the changes we made and put the application in place, it was interesting, and it was educational because I had older kids, so I was able to communicate
Mm-hmm.
what we were doing and communicate, what I had learned or what we had learned, and it was good conversation because the older kids could understand and go, wait a minute, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it was a game changer. Training
I
is so important.
what you're describing to me, I have heard many times with families that I have worked with that have come to a training or a support group or whatever, and we've worked with changing their perspective.
Hmm.
Um, so it's not like you're a magician or like the best mom ever.
No.
It just is getting that information, and oftentimes it's getting that information in a way that is easy for us to obtain and from somebody that we relate to really well. Preferably from another parent, I find, because a lot of times with like scientists or whatever, you're like, you don't live this life, okay?
Right.
we,
Right.
there's
That
a
sounds
gap
great
in
in theory.
implementation. Yes, right. Yeah. So on that note, you have very exciting things coming up. So can you describe to us your course that you are going to be debuting soon?
Yes, I'm very excited actually. I am going to be providing a 6-week in-depth study about basically parenting our unique child's brain. And it is going to be this one's going to be a learn at your pace. I love doing live trainings and I love doing in-person trainings. Obviously, COVID has kind of stopped that.
Right.
Or put that on pause, I shall say. And so we're going to be doing a 6-week course. And so it's going to basically be where you can learn at your own pace during the week. And then we will have group live Zoom calls for question and answers and to work through things, and some breakout sessions and that type of thing. Some hands-on tools that can be implemented to application right away.
Yeah.
And a really good insight to us as a parent, learning about our child, and just putting it all together, finding those pieces and doing some self-discovery and doing a discovery about our children to find out what's going to help them and you lessen your frustration,
Right. So what
So
if what kind of family should be considering this course?
any family actually. Actually, what I found was it really, really helped with our children with FASD, our children with some other neurodiverse diagnoses, so to speak, children with trauma,
Mm-hmm.
because trauma alters the brain for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I found that it really honestly works with neurotypical children. I mean, it really does. I mean, we have 4 with, brain-based disabilities, but we also have 2 that don't.
Yeah.
And this approach is we were just blown away that, oh, well, this works for everyone, really.
Yeah.
But yes, we did go into it with, FASD and brain-based disabilities in mind, but walked out of it with such a newfound knowledge and understanding. It was, wow.
I think what's important is that we forget that all of our kids' brains are developing.
Yes.
So some of them develop at different paces or in different ways than others, but they're all developing. And so when we can look at it from a brain-based lens, then we're going to have empathy and be able to connect better on all the important pieces. Right. So this training that you're putting on is very similar to the training that changed your life years ago.
Yes. Yeah. It's exactly the same training
it's pretty cool.
that changed my life years ago. So yes, I'm very excited to share it and just get it out there in the world because it's so important and so needed. So
how can people connect with you to know like all the like be first to know about all the details about the class?
Okay. Well, I will be posting obviously on my stories and in my feed. Also, if you go to diverselyDesigned.com and on the website there, you can sign up for an email if you want to do that. I'm working on the form. Honestly, I was trying to change something on the website and I accidentally deleted my form. So it will be up to click on early bird. The workshop will be there. And I'm doing an early bird registration beta group for a discounted price. So next weekend, the 29th, Friday through Sunday, you can get it at a discounted price. After that, it's going to go up. But if they can connect with me at diverselydesigns.com, they'll have all the information there. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's great that they're going to know like right away so that they can have time to think about it, but also hop on the opportunity.
Right.
I know enough about what you're teaching that I know that it's going to change people's lives. So I'm very excited that you're able to share that with others.
Thank you. Me too.
And then people should follow you anyways, because you put out really good content around this concept of brain-based parenting, which is obviously why we're so honored to have you as part of the collaborative. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to see more families wrapped up in this information and learn it on a deep and meaningful level so that they can implement it even on the tough days.
Yes. And I have to say that is life-changing. I mean, we have had, I'll be really, really quick, we've had a really rough week. And had I not had this training, everything would have gone differently for us. I mean, we had a really, really challenging week with one of our kiddos. And so without this in the back of my mind, it would have gone a whole different direction and to not the positive. So this was really, really helpful for that. So hopefully I'm excited for other people to get to know this model and what I'm sharing.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Awesome.
Can't wait.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
So